Pueblo City Council votes tonight on an abortion restriction that directly challenges state law. And this could set up a court case specifically designed by anti-abortion groups to usher in a national abortion ban using a federal law from 1873. Our Kelly Rinke explains.
We are not stripped of our local control.
We've seen Pueblo Councilwoman Regina Maestri do this before. She failed 2 years ago to pass an ordinance to ban abortion clinics and sue providers. Now she's trying again to restrict abortion access in the city.
That state legislators have imposed laws and put them in place to basically almost dissipate morality in our community.
At the same time, Colorado voters will decide in November to put abortion rights in the state constitution. Maestri's proposal uses the Federal Comstock Act from 1873 to ban the mailing and receiving of items used in abortions.
And it's a way to make sure that we are adhering to federal law through the Comstock Act to make sure that women can be safe from these dangerous procedures.
Marcy Little is the executive director of Colorado for Life. She hopes this federal law can be used to restrict abortions, even in states with broad access like Colorado.
If it goes well for the city of Pueblo and does hold up, I think it would likely encourage other cities in the state to do it.
Attorney General Phil Weiser has already told Pueblo he'll take them to court if this passes because it conflicts with state laws.
This really is a bigger move to ban abortion across the country. But by doing that, we are also harming all reproductive health care.
Kira Haddon with Cobalt says she feels comfortable for now that the state law will protect abortion access. She's more worried about impacts nationwide.
This is a ploy by the proponents of this measure to really run this up to the Supreme Court and have abortion outlawed across the country.
So lawyers for the city do not recommend approving this proposal because they say it violates state law. That meeting starts at 7. Kyle.
And you can tell how hungry pro-life groups are for this test case, Kelly, because Pueblo has an offer to pay their legal bills when they inevitably get sued.
Yes, so there's already a Catholic law firm and an interest group that has written a letter to the city of Pueblo saying, hey, if you decide to go forward with this ordinance, we will do the legal services pro bono.
All right, we'll be watching that tonight. Updates at 9 and 10. Kelly Rinke, thank you. The Aurora City Councilwoman, who just launched an investigation of nonprofits helping migrants, is now claiming without evidence that the governor and the mayor of Denver conspired to sneak potentially thousands of migrants into Aurora. Councilwoman Danielle Jurinsky did not provide anything to back up her claimed conspiracy. Again, that's her wording, not ours. And a spokesperson said she wouldn't be giving interviews or answering questions about it. Jurinsky was a chief driver of those claims about a Venezuelan gang takeover that caused Donald Trump to come to Aurora last Friday and falsely claimed that the city had been conquered by a migrant gang. Last night, Jurinsky and other conservatives on Aurora City Council passed an ordinance that claimed, without offering evidence, that the state and the city of Denver placed migrants into Aurora. Then council ordered an investigation of those nonprofits' contracts. The State Office of New Americans flatly denies that it placed migrants anywhere. It gave grant money to nonprofits, which then helped migrants find housing where they wanted in a variety of communities. The city of Denver also provided funding to house migrants in city shelters and funded nonprofits, similarly helping migrants find housing.
Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Gary, who asked us if Donald Trump paid in advance to use the Gaylord Rockies facility for his campaign rally.
Well, that's a good question, Gary. Trump's contract with Gaylord is not a public record. That's between a business and the campaign. But we know that many municipalities have been stuck with unpaid bills for their services provided for Trump campaign visits. NBC News and our Verify team have tracked the Trump campaign's unpaid bills across the United States. Well, there will be no such issue in Aurora because the city and the police department tell us today they will not require reimbursement for the city's costs for the Trump visit. City spokesperson said they don't really have a formal policy on this, but they have not sent out bills for past candidate visits, and they won't send out a bill for Trump's. The city of Denver is talking to the Denver Public School District about using a former elementary school as an emergency shelter for migrants if arrivals from the southern border spike again. The city is considering leasing out the former Remington Elementary School at 47th and Pecos. New arrivals from the southern border have slowed to a trickle lately, but a spokesperson for the city said it would be irresponsible if they didn't at least plan for another surge. City Council President Amanda Sandoval is planning a community meeting to gauge people's feelings on this proposal. The city says if it signs a lease for the old school, it would only be used in an emergency and it would have security on site 24/7. Denver's drastically scaled back its services for migrants lately, closing the last of its short-term shelters and no longer offering paid bus tickets to migrants who just want to pass through to another city. School choice is on the November ballot, even though school choice has been in Colorado state law for 30 years. Amendment 80 seeks to put school choice into the state's constitution. So let's look at what would change. Politics guy Marshall Zellinger examines the stakes for Colorado if voters pass Amendment 80.
School choice, the choice to send a student to any school district, was put in state law in 1994. Students can attend any school district and the parents do not have to pay tuition. There are certain exceptions in state law for when a district can deny enrollment, like if there's not enough space or certain eligibility requirements are not met. Parents can also choose to send their kids to private schools or homeschool them, but those are not funded by tax dollars. A yes vote on Amendment 80 puts school choice in the state's constitution, which can only be changed by a vote of the people, not state lawmakers. Because it's a constitutional amendment, it requires 55% to pass. A no vote on Amendment 80 changes nothing. School choice still exists. The bigger issue is what happens after if Amendment 80 passes. The amendment affirms parents have access to that school choice. Would that mean public tax dollars could be used for private educations? That's like a school voucher and something that would likely end up in court if Amendment 80 passes and a parent wants tax dollars for private education. Amendment 80 was put on the ballot by the conservative group Advance Colorado. As a nonprofit, it does not have to disclose its donors or how it spends money. The committee created to get Amendment 80 passed is called School Choice for Every Child and has reported $0 raised and spent. The committee against Amendment 80 is called Public Schools Strong. It has raised almost $3.8 million, $3 million of it this month from the National Education Association Teachers Union.
I like playing with kids' blocks at school or at work now. Amendment 80, similar to what we talked about previously with the abortion access and putting it into the state constitution, Kyle, because again, school choice is in state law. Abortion access is in state law. Yeah. These two questions ask about putting it in the Constitution, but they're the unintended parts. In the abortion access, it's talking about using public funds, perhaps, for abortion access. In this one, the question, court likely, as you saw in my blocks, is it leaves a lot in the air that suddenly, if this were in the Constitution, there's concern like, okay, I'm going to choose to have my child learn at home or in private schools, and because of that choice, you now can give me this public funds. That's where courts are likely to have to talk.
But you see here, both the left and the right in Colorado thinking that they might just have a good-sized majority on an issue, and they want to lock in that win so that they can't lose it easily in the future, right? The left on abortion, the right on school choice, trying to lock it in while they still have the numbers.
Because the state lawmakers can change state law at any point. When you put it in the Constitution, which is now why it requires 55%, it becomes much more difficult, kind of like trying to get it passed. It becomes difficult to pass because you need that 55% in the first place.
Thank you to you and the blocks. The family of a man who passed away inside the immigration detention facility in Aurora has now filed a wrongful death lawsuit claiming that man did not receive adequate medical care. Calero Mendoza was detained in May 2022 and died 5 months later. The coroner says that a blood clot likely linked to a foot injury is what killed him. The attorney representing Mendoza's 2 children is suing the company that runs the immigration facility as well as a doctor who works there.
Melvin died because the medical staff here failed to diagnose and detect a dangerous blood clot in his right leg. The blood clot traveled to his lungs, causing a severe pulmonary embolism that caused his death.
An immigration lawyer and law professor told us she believes that there is a systemic problem within this facility. She wants the state to investigate.
We cannot ignore that this is happening here in our backyard and that Colorado medical professionals are alleged to have contributed to this death. It's unacceptable.
Out to the defendants in the lawsuit as well as the state regulators who would investigate if there was an investigation. We didn't hear back. Colorado's Civil Rights Commission reviews appeals when civil rights claims against the governor or the legislature are tossed out. They're kind of like a backstop for civil rights in our state. An audit found that that commission does not have a single Republican and has no geographic diversity. Right now, the commission only has 5 of its required 7 members, and all 5 are from the Denver metro area. There's 1 Democrat, 4 unaffiliated. Rural areas have no representation. For comparison, in 2017, more than half the commission lived outside the metro area, according to this audit. The state auditor recommended that the legislature get involved to change the current membership requirements to encourage that Civil Rights Commission to better reflect our state. Xcel is bringing back energy efficiency incentives thanks to some fancy math.
I think the biggest challenge for them and other wildlife is the disappearance of habitat.
We will rebuild, and by we I mean the pair of closely watched bald eagles who lost their nest in a lightning strike. That's next. The parent companies of King Soopers and Safeway, Kroger's and Albertsons, are trying to convince a district court judge in Denver that they have to merge to compete with the mega stores like Walmart, Costco, Amazon. Kroger's CEO took the stand 2 weeks into their trial over the Kroger-Albertsons merger. The state of Colorado wrapped up its case yesterday. The state's argument is focused on the Colorado Antitrust Act. Democratic Attorney General Phil Weiser says if this grocery merger goes through, there will be less competition, damage to worker rights, worse customer service, and higher grocery prices. So then the grocery store's defense began its testimony today, claiming that the grocery stores have to come together to stay competitive.
For me, I don't want it to be one of those things where in 20 years, all of a sudden you realize they have a 10 or 20% market share and you've just let them take business away from you.
So the trial is running behind schedule. Closing arguments are set for next Thursday. This same proposed merger is also being tested at trial in Oregon and in Washington. Xcel Energy is bringing back its energy efficiency rebate program. It was on pause after the company overspent the budget for that item. State regulators are allowing the company to move $34 million from next year's pot into this year's to get the program going. It offers rebates to businesses using energy efficient stuff like LED lighting and high efficiency HVAC systems. In July, Xcel said the program was more popular than they expected and it was at capacity. State regulators approved moving that money around from the full 3-year energy efficiency plan so that it wouldn't have to pause for the remainder of the year. Let's bring in meteorologist Kathy Sabin for a look ahead at the weather.
Warm again today, a little bit hazy, but not in record territory like yesterday. Temperatures yesterday in the mid-80s. A weak front coming through earlier today brought temperatures down into the 70s, but that's still above the average of 66. It will all change come the weekend with the arrival of this system that's still off the coast of California. And that means we actually have a chance of rain. It's been 23 days since we've seen rain. We've got a chance late Friday into Saturday, and maybe some mountain snow. Enough cold air may mix in with this system. Tonight, it's all about the wind increasing out of the east and southeast on the plains. That increase in the wind, along with the warmth, leads to elevated fire danger tomorrow. Temperatures have cooled back to the mid-60s in downtown Denver here with the setting sun. And we do have the potential for some patchy frost, even freeze conditions out on the eastern plains tomorrow morning and the following morning. The best chance for any moisture will be coming into southwestern Colorado tomorrow from a little area of disturbed weather spinning in the southwest. Denver stays dry this evening with temperatures in the 60s now, dropping 10 degrees around midnight. We pop back to 80 tomorrow, windy and warm, increasing clouds, a little cooler Thursday. We bring in the chance for showers Friday and then bring a cool Saturday. Highs in the 50s. Showers move out on Sunday. We're back to sunshine and 60s on Monday.
Many times here we have talked about the difficult, even dangerous situation when we cannot agree on the facts. What happens when people choose to live in alternative realities based on misperceptions or sometimes lies told by powerful people? So I'd invite you to join me in person to continue that conversation next week at the University of Denver. So we are going to gather for a conversation with the Chancellor of the University of Denver at 7 p.m. next Tuesday, talking about media and democracy. What happens when we can't agree on the facts? This is a free event to RSVP and attend. We have the link to do so in the next section of 9news.com. A much-loved and often-watched pair of bald eagles have been forced to find a new home on the Front Range. That's next. Tonight on Nest, a community's much-loved bald eagle forced out of its home by a lightning strike. We spoke with the man who captured the footage, who has a look at how the bird's doing now.
I just wanted to get a note that I had seen them there. My name's Dana Bovey, and I represent Front Range Eagle Studies. All right, so you see them up there? Front Range Eagle Studies is largely a research group. Now it's circling again. I think the biggest challenge for them and other wildlife is the disappearance of habitat.
The incident over at Stearns Lake, what happened with those birds?
And all of a sudden I see just this flash in the sky, and I saw, the female bald eagle perched near the nest, and the nest exploded in flames, and then suddenly she's hanging upside down. It stopped my heart. But it was, sometimes you never know where the blessings will come from. That's the right tree. That's the tree that they're nesting in now. It's a pretty dire situation. I mean, they don't know that the 138 plus acres of prairie dogs that are over in that direction where they set up to hunt from, the reason that they came over here, those prairie dogs are going to be gone and very, very soon. You can see the colony sites from here. The development, it's done, it's going to happen. And there's the common philosophy and the common idea. They can just go somewhere else. They just did. It's like, so when does that just end? I really love to continue to have these nesting birds stay and for people to come to know them and want them also to remain here.
We are back with your feedback, delivered by Marissa, who has a new haircut, which I noticed. That's always dangerous. You got to be careful, because if you're wrong, that's bad news. But I was right. Feedback next. A political candidate buying a Subaru Outback to campaign in. That's the most Colorado thing we saw today. Colorado Sun Politics reporter Jesse Paul actually spotted this in campaign finance reports. He thought that next viewers would appreciate it. This is the 2006 Subaru Outback purchased by CD5 Democrat River Gasson. Her long shot campaign spent a bit less than $4,000 on a most Colorado ride. She tells me the Outback has 135,000 miles on it and said it was simply a more economical choice than billing her campaign for the mileage she was putting on her personal vehicle. If the name doesn't sound familiar, she's running a real long shot campaign in a heavily Republican congressional district. She faces Republican Jeff Crank down there in the Springs. But you know what? Even if she doesn't win, she at least rode around Colorado in style. Carol writes in tonight to say, are you going to do an informative program on the meaning of the issues on the ballot this year? She says, I just tried to read the state ballot information book and I am more confused than I was before. Please help. We're trying, Carol. We've been doing these ballot issues kind of one by one over the last month or so, putting them all on the voter guide, which you can find on 9news.com. See you next time.